Okay, so tonight we're doing an introduction to Siman Tzaddik Ches. Siman Tzaddik Ches 98. Siman Tzaddik Ches 98 begins halachas of Taruvos. We did already do at least one Siman of Taruvos, which is the Siman of Kufay. And then from there we went back to the laws of Basar B'Chalav. And as we learned, the reason we did that is because Kufay discusses all the various different types of food, all the various different types of food transfers, flavor transfers in terms of cooking together, salting together, and so on. That's why we learned kofei, and from there we went back to see that in Basar B'Chalav, and then we basically went to the beginning of Basar B'Chalav and went from the beginning through. So you've essentially covered Basar B'Chalav. We discussed a bit of Taruvos when we learned kofei, but now we officially begin Taruvos in Tzaddik Ches. So the difference between Taruvos versus Basar B'Chalav is Basar B'Chalav is, as we've kept on learning, a combination of two things that are inherently kosher. There's nothing prohibiting one from eating milk or from eating meat. They're both, and specifically, they're only with kosher substances. We learned already that if it's non-kosher meat, it's not kosher, but it doesn't fall into the category of Basar B'Chalav, right? And therefore wouldn't be usher in hana and benefit and so on. It's only prohibited when it's at least biblically cooked together, right? There's all limitations or all these laws that are born in Basar B'Chalav based on the fact that they start out as permitted items and only become forbidden in their interaction, both for stringency and for leniency. Stringency in Chanan, the classic Chati Chanas Nevel is Basar B'Chalav, because they're both kosher, they become non-kosher in their combination, different entire combination, no good. And also in leniency, like in Nat Bar Nat, for example, because they're not Bar Nat of Heter, right? Until they mix, then they become prohibited. And other such things where many of the prohibitions are only rabbinic, because biblically speaking, it's only kosher meat and if it's cooked, right? Okay. Taruvos, however, is literally translated as mixings. That's what Taruvos means. La'areh, like to mix. So the laws of Taruvos are the laws of kosher food and non-kosher food mixing. Now, when you're thinking about it that way, then the item in question is inherently non-kosher. It's aser machmas atzmai. It itself is a prohibited item. And the halachas of Taruvos are not whether you're allowed to eat it or not. That's already established. It's aser, it's not allowed to eat. In Basar B'Chalav, the question is, are you allowed to eat it or not? Because did it mix? Because in mixing, it becomes non-kosher. In Taruvos, the food is not kosher. The question is, to what degree and how can that food item infect something else in mixing with something else? That's the inherent nature of the halachas of Taruvos. So, to a certain degree, the practicality of Taruvos in a kosher kitchen is much less. Because you don't have non-kosher food items coming into your kitchen. There's a rule. The questions that's going to come up in your kitchen most often, if you have a kitchen, you know this already, is Basar B'Chalav questions. Right? We discussed many of them. The fork fell into the wrong sink. I used the wrong ladle. All that stuff. So that's the common questions that come up in a kosher kitchen because you already keep kosher. We already assume you're bringing only kosher food into your house. And therefore, Basar B'Chalav is going to be much more relevant than Taruvos. If you're a mashgiach in a plant, then it becomes more prevalent. Something fell in from the other run, which wasn't kosher, into your kosher run. Right? That would be a Taruvos question. Nonetheless, Taruvos is still going to be practical because a lot of the principles that we had relied on in the past or discussed in the past in Basar B'Chalav are actually more articulated in Taruvos than they are in Basar B'Chalav because they're really principles about transmission. Which is why we began in Kufay, because the articulation about bishul causing the full transfer and the steaming and the salting, the articulation of that was repeated in Tzaddik Aleph, but it was more elaborate in Kufay, which is why we began in Kufay, because it's a Taruvos question. It's a question of mixings and the nature of mixings. Right? So that's what's going to be discussed in Taruvos. So even though, again, it's primarily we're talking about non-kosher mixing into kosher, which in your kitchen is not going to happen so often, God willing. It does happen on occasion. Someone bought the wrong product. Or in the old day, probably happened more often where you shechted a chicken and you cleaned it out at home and you brought it to the oven, and the oven determined it wasn't kosher, but there's a piece of the chicken that ended up in your chicken soup already, so you have a non-kosher chicken in your chicken soup. What do you do? So maybe that would have happened more often than today, but today we're buying already fully kosher packaged, kosherized chickens and meat, etc. But nonetheless, as I just explained, the principles are going to be relevant, very relevant, even to the basar b'chalaf questions, because of we're going to be unpacking a lot of the ideas that go behind the transference of flavor that was relevant to basar b'chalaf as well. Okay, it's clear. That's a broad strokes introduction. Zooming into tzaddik ches, the specific principle here in question, which is something we've mentioned 1,000 times already, and now we're really going to zoom into it, is the principle of Taam K'Ikar. That's almost the foundation of all taruvos. If there's no such thing as Taam K'Ikar, right? Taam K'Ikar literally translates as the flavor is as if the item is there itself. So if the flavor of something is there, even though the thing itself is not, it's as if the thing is there. It's a machlokes amongst the Rishonim. If this is biblical idea, rabbinic, we're going to rule it is biblical. The majority of halachic authorities will rule that it is biblical. And the fact that it's biblical versus rabbinic is going to be relevant, as we're going to learn and unpack, and I'll explain in a moment how. But the principle essentially is that the flavor of something is as if the thing is there itself. If you don't, let's just imagine, if you don't have Taam K'Ikar, if we didn't have such a principle, a lot of what we learn would not be relevant. For example, all the questions of the flavor that was absorbed in the pot is now in my next food item. If there's no Taam K'Ikar, that's irrelevant. Even furthermore, a piece of meat falls into your milk soup, take out a piece of meat, and you're done. Mm-hmm. There's no issue, right? So a lot of the halachas would not be relevant if there's no Taam K'Ikar, right? But considering that there is Taam K'Ikar, as we just explained, from the majority opinion and the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, it's a biblical question. It means, therefore, even if the non-kosher item is not present, but the flavor is present, the Torah treats it as if the item is present. Okay. Now, let's do a little exercise in looking at the words themselves, the words Taam K'Ikar themselves, and see if we can deduce some of the limitations of these halachas. Okay, it'll help us understand a little bit. When it came to milk and meat, the Taam K'Ikar is very easy. And why is that? Because meat and milk are inherently different flavors.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So whenever there was a mixture, you always had Taam up until 60 times, or if you had a goy taste it as per the machaber.
Right.
So Taam was always there. Okay, so we treat it like the Ikar is there, and now we have to go through all of our bittul processes or figuring out if it's a Taam of Levgan, is it a positive flavor, a negative flavor, is it a weak flavor, is it a strong flavor, is it not banat, and so on and so forth. But the flavor is always there. It's a question of whether it's going to cause a problem. Because milk and meat are of a separate flavor profile. They're different types. When it comes to non-kosher, you can have kosher and non-kosher that have the exact same flavor.
Right.
Yeah, non-kosher meat and kosher meat. Cow, that was shechted versus cow, that wasn't shechted. It's going to taste exactly the same. Yeah, it's just one's kosher, one's not. So what's the principle of Taam K'Ikar now? Flavor as if the item is there itself. What if the flavor isn't there?
Just a straight piece of meat that mixes with a kosher piece of meat.
There's
no real
There's no flavor there.
There's no flavor difference.
You cannot say Taam K'Ikar. You got rid of the non-kosher meat. Let's just imagine that was the case. You didn't have Taam K'Ikar now.
Right.
The Mechaber can no longer say taste it and you know from the taste.
First of all, the Mechaber cannot say that, number one. But the question is, will even the Ramah require you to have shishim? There's no Taam K'Ikar.
Right. What do you know?
There is no Taam. Inherently, no Taam. This is a question. This is what's called min b'minoi. Min b'minoi, one item and its own item. The tarufas, the mixture, is such that it's min b'minoi, a type in its own type mixing. Or chaylev b'shuma, non-kosher chaylev, which is fat non-kosher, mixing with kosher fat.
We spoke about this at the beginning.
Sorry? We spoke about it briefly, but we're really going to unpack that now here inside the ches. Because here we're learning the halachas of Taam K'Ikar, right? The flavor itself is as if the thing is there itself, but it's only the flavor is there. Which means Two things. A, the non-kosher item is gone. It's only flavor. B, you can actually taste the flavor. It's min b'she'eino mino. So you have two cases, let's say, in which the Taam K'Ikar will not apply, at least biblically speaking. Biblically speaking. And both of them come down to a situation where there is no Taam. Because we have in Torah B'chlal, the rule of Batal B'Roiv, something nullified in its majority. The Taam K'Ikar undoes that. Why does Taam K'Ikar undo it? If it's taken there, the thing is nullified. So it's the Batal B'Roiv is undone by the fact that the flavor is now present throughout the whole mixture. Which means, biblically speaking, if it's yavish b'yavish, a non-kosher item mixing them with dry, well, everything's dry, there's no liquid. So there's no flavor transference. All you really need is bittul barov. We had this once before with pieces of meat.
Right.
We don't need to have that much bittul. Why? Because no Taam K'Ikar here. Because it's dry, there's no flavor transfer. So there's no Taam, and if there's no Taam K'Ikar, so all you need is bittul barov. And likewise, if you have min bin minoi, one item in its own type, and it's all liquid. It's all liquid. So everything's mixed together. And there's no flavor because it's fat and fat, non-kosher fat and kosher fat. Okay. Or it's right,
Kosher milk, non-kosher milk.
and kosher milk, non-kosher milk, right? That would be one type in its own type,
So you have camel milk.
or liquid falling onto a dry thing, where the flavor is not prevalent, and if the flavor is not present, it's not biblically prohibited, because the biblical prohibition is only when Taam K'Ikar, and there is no Taam here.
What if it's a worse taste? I'm getting a worse taste.
Okay, well, yeah, we're going to get that. If it's Gam, then it's not a problem. That's a limitation on Taam K'Ikar, right? Nesodam Gam is, like we learned, or like we explained, is because the flavor has to be faithful to the original. And there's not, therefore it's not a problem. But we're assuming here it is, not Gam. Here it's all
Right.
positive flavor, right? But there is no flavor, period. There's no identifier of the non-kosher. Because it's non-kosher fat and kosher fat, or non-kosher milk and kosher milk. There's nothing by which to identify the flavor profile of that food item.
There's no differentiation.
No differentiating factor. We're going to learn that Ramah to go even farther, actually. That if you had, the example they give here, is two different types of vinegar. Let's say you have rice vinegar, and it's the Ramah, I think, in Bays. Yes. Ramah, she tells us that you follow that biblically speaking, again, the question of min b'minoi, that the item is in its own type, and because it's in its own type, therefore no Taam K'Ikar, is even if they share a common name and not a common flavor. The example they give here is two types of vinegar from wine or vinegar from beer. Let's just say rice vinegar or something like that, where they're both called vinegar, and even if technically speaking someone can taste the difference, because they're of one type, they don't have the issue, they don't have Taam K'Ikar biblically speaking. All right. Okay. Our sages, however, they added they added Xera, this rule that we're going to require bittul even when there's no Taam transference.
Rishishin.
Oh, why are you saying B'Shishin? You're correct, but why? Let's unpack that. Why B'Shishin? What's the nature of Shishin? What's the meaning of Shishin? It's just an arbitrary number. What's the nature of Shishin? The whole part here is Taam K'Ikar, the flavor is like the primary thing. So which means inherently, if there's no flavor, it's not a problem. Which is why the Machaber says you can rely on a goy. You can rely on a non-Jew. He's not saying it himself. He's basing this on the Gemara. the Gemara, which says you can rely on a goy. The Gemara's whole discussion, and the Gemara talks about two components to make sure you're actually relying. The goy is actually reliable. A, that he has a job. He's a taste tester, it's professional, and if he lies, he's going to be losing reputation. So he's not going to lie about the flavor that he tells you. Or actually, there's some opinion states, but let's just say or, because according to the Mechaber, it's or he is mesiach lefi tumai, which means he speaks nonchalantly. He speaks in passing. Mesiach means he speaks lefi tumai, in his own innocence, if you want to translate literally. Mesiach means to speak lefi, by way of tumai, his innocence.
Except like looking at a random boy off the street who has no.
If he knows you're doing it, but if however he knows that you're asking him to taste because you want something out of it, then we assume he might lie because he's trying to read our facial expressions to see what I want, right? Because he wants to be nice to me. Mesiach letumai means he speaks nonchalantly, just it happens to be. Right? Oh, I taste the flavor of this something else. Okay, but be that as it may, the point B basically is that because the Gemara and the Mechaber maintains it, that we rely on the non-Jew tasting, because again, it's Taam K'Ikar. The time is gone. Goodbye, Charlie. Good. So where did Shishim come in? Where does 60 come in? 60 is the measure by which the sages say the flavor is no longer relevant, no longer present. Which means if you have no goy,
It needs to be
go by 60. If it's possible, in some cases you can have a Jew taste. We learned about that. Let's say you want to taste the bread has some flavor of cheese on it. We spoke about that once before. That we're like it's not kosher. It's milk or meat. You might have a Jew taste it, but if you have no goy who can taste it for you, the Chachamim say 60 means the flavor is nullified. Now we're going to apply that standard to min b'minoi. In a case where there is no possibility to differentiate the taste, because it's non-kosher fat and kosher fat. Yeah? So now we're going to ask for 60 to the ratio. Why are we asking 60 to the ratio? Because if it had a different flavor, it would be nullified. We're going by its taste, by its flavor profile, by its taste profile. Because the Chacham determined that 60 is the measure by which
taste is nullified.
Taste is nullified, and I want to expand it's exeda. I don't want you to mistakenly think that you can nullify by a majority that which does have flavor. And therefore, I'm going to tell you, even if it doesn't have flavor, make sure you nullify it by more than majority. Because if it doesn't have flavor, by Torah law, you can nullify it by the majority, because no more Taam K'Ikar.
Right.
Because it's milk and milk. So if it's no more Taam K'Ikar, and you only need roiv, only need a majority, come and say, I want you to nullify it the same way you would if it were a different flavor. And
Make one standard.
Make it one standard, and therefore 60 times. And this applies to these two cases mentioned before, in which you don't have any flavor transference. Case number one would be where you have two things that are dry, they should be nullified in 60. And number two, when it's liquid and liquid, or liquid and dry, but they're of the same flavor profile where you can't taste the difference, we still want you to nullify it by 60. But that's only rabbinic. Now, what are some practical differences between something being biblical or rabbinic?
If it's dry, could you count it? And if you count it, wouldn't it not be nullified by 60?
We can count it.
Like it's like a standalone thing. If it's something that's dry, like usually liquid is hard. There's no substance. Like for the meat, if there's a full piece of not kosher meat.
So let's say it's diced up pieces. Okay, if it's full piece of meat, then it's considered cheticha or l'skapot.
Yeah, so
that's a different thing. So there are other limitations to, actually 4 limitations to things that are never nullified.
Yes,
We'll discuss them later. Siman. I'm reading that from the book now because I don't know them all by heart.
okay.
And the 4 things are if you have a complete full item.
Well, yeah,
Meaning you have, let's say, a full bug or something, or it's a barrier.
yeah.
It's a thing that's created of itself. 2 is if you have a piece of meat that's worthy of, right? It's never nullified.
Yeah.
And davar shel minyan, something which is like it's a countable item. You count them like you have a dozen eggs, so you count them by number. Okay, not eggs is a good question of whether that counts. We'll get to that when we get there. And the 4th thing is spices, where if it gives flavor, even if it's post 60, where it's meant to give flavor post 60.
Right.
And it's never going to be nullified. But that's based on the principle that Taam K'Ikar, right? And over here, if it's I don't know, spices used for an avodah zarah, that's usher. Avodah zarah is never bottled anyway. So never mind. So avodah zarah is never bottled even by Elif. But if it's, I don't know how we know kosher spices, but whatever it was, it's not nullified.
Right.
So just for clarification, if it would be even liquid, it would be bittul berever, it's min b'minay.
Correct.
That would be
Not
that would
there.
be up there.
Yeah.
The idea that it's 60, that's
The Rabbanan.
the Rabbanan.
Oh, so now good. So basically we have,
So this means basic. Sorry.
go ahead.
I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say basically. So if you have one piece of steak and 10 steaks, not good. It's a full piece of steak. But if
Yes.
you diced up all 10 steaks into little into pieces, and now you're going to make something.
Really,
big.
but we're worried you're going to cook it together. And when you cook it together, now you might eat shishim. If it's not the same flavor profile, let's say.
Okay, so it wouldn't be shishin though, because
Do you have or not? You have 60 times more kosher slices.
you have
real slices.
each piece. Let's say you shredded it up. Each piece to your whole thing would be 60. But if you take your whole,
If it's ground into a beef burger, hamburger,
yeah,
let's say. There's no technical transfer of flavor. Nothing in the kosher
Right.
meat is having anything of the non-kosher because it's all dry. Nothing. But you're worried you're going to cook it together, and therefore we say you have to have shishim.
so you
Even
can't
if
cook it together.
You
Yeah.
couldn't for sure, but we want you to nullify it by 60 lest you come to cook it.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
so it's a
Yeah,
stringent.
but,
It's a
no,
stringency.
They're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
The more common case is lach balach. Liquid and liquid,
Yeah,
right? Where we want to nullify it by 60.
I agree because we're not usually cooking with tray food like around this.
We're not
So
yeah,
It's not practical. I agree with you. We don't own tray food,
Yeah.
so it's not going to be like mixed.
yeah. Okay, so now let's think of what would be practical difference. What's the most obvious practical difference between something being biblically prohibited or rabbinically prohibited? This came up in our discussion of the levels of prohibition of basar b'cholov. Right, in basar b'cholov we had biblically prohibited, rabbinically prohibited, we had maris ayin. Yeah, what's the primary distinction between the way we treat a biblical prohibition versus a rabbinic prohibition? It's also. What are the practical ramifications to something being biblical or rabbinic? No, in terms of how it's practice.
B'diavad.
B'diavad, in most cases, there are abundant anyway, b'diavad, but it's close. What's the next word? Not b'diavad. Another thing. Yes. No. When? In which case?
Two
Sometimes the ikir is
two
softened.
stringencies.
Two stringencies for sure. But here it's xeris chachamim. I don't know if that counts as a chumrah. Chumrah, the two stringencies equaling the positive is when you have, like, say, two machlekes. So we're taking two stringent views. Here it's across the board, chachamim made xeris. But as a rule, this is across all of Torah, all of halacha. Sveika derabanan l'kula, sveika deraisa l'chumrah. And when something is doubt, but it's a doubt of biblical nature, then you go stringent. If it's a doubt, but it's a doubt of a rabbinic nature, you go lenient. This is a rule across all of Torah. Okay, that's going to be relevant here. Namely, you are not sure if you had 60.
Yep.
You're not sure if you had 60.
Okay, so you're saying
So let's walk it through. If it's min b'she'ena minoi, if it's the type in
Two different
different
types.
types,
then you have then it's
then you need
deraisa, so
bittul
you have to-
deraisa because you have actual
Exactly,
time.
yeah.
So you have to get rid of the Taam K'Ikar.
Right.
So you have to,
Sure,
oh my,
it's not-
and if you're not sure if you had 60, you know,
That's why the whole thing.
it's no good. But if it's min b'minoi, so it's the same type. So there is no flavor. There's no flavor to nullify. So it's only, you only need 60 rabbinically.
Oh,
Not sure if you have 60, then you can have.
But you're sure it's a minority. You're sure that it's.
Oh, for sure. If
You
you're
know
not
it's
sure,
minority.
if you're not sure if it's
Oh, yes.
It's not 60.
That's right. You know it's a minority, already more than it's right. So you already have bittul b'roiv deraisa.
60?
but,
Right.
I see.
You have
Okay.
bittul b'roiv deraisa.
You're
To
okay
your
with
your point, yes. You know it's majority. You know it's the minority. So you have bittul b'roiv deraisa. It's a problem whether or not you have rabbinic 60. Because they're in doubt, it's okay. We're going to learn a caveat that the doubt cannot be a doubt in your mind. It has to be a doubt in fact. What's the difference between a doubt in your mind versus a fact? If the pot's in front of you right now,
Mhm.
and you're just looking at it, you can't figure out the measurement because it's not identifiable, well, that's your problem. It's not a fact a doubt. It's a doubt because you and I aren't professional enough to figure out what the components of this mixture is. When would it be a doubt? If any part of it spilled out. And now, in fact, there's a doubt. Not just in lack of my knowledge, it's a doubt.
It's not as good as loophole as I thought.
So it's not as good as the loophole as you think. That's right. Little caveat. You can never get
It's
it
a
right.
big caveat.
Due to
Sorry?
ignorance. It's down to inability to know.
It's not doubt through your inability.
It's not doubt through ignorance.
Correct. It's not doubt through ignorance.
It's inability to know.
Very good. Not a doubt through ignorance. It's a doubt through inability. The absolute inability to know. Like not the absolute, like the objective, like the non-subjective, like not because of my problem, because
It can't be known.
correct. It can't be known. As opposed to I happen to not be capable of knowing because I'm not aware of these kinds of things.
I like the caveat.
Yeah. So this is a very important little caveat that's going to come up. Okay. Now, we're also going to come and discuss, because of Taam K'Ikar in the same regard, we're going to be repeating some of the laws that we learned about vessels. So the laws we learned about vessels in Basa B'Chalav, we're not going to learn them again here now with some elaboration, like the expression Torah is, especially the Gemara is the Torah is ani b'makam echad asher b'makam acher. It's poor in one place and rich in another. Often in Torah, you have some subject that's discussed here a bit and discussed more elaborate elsewhere. So there's going to be some details here that about the laws of absorption in vessels that we haven't discussed already, including laws about putting a spoon inside versus and using a wrong pot. But in the cases till now, we talked about putting a dairy spoon into a food that's being cooked in a fleishik pot, or you're cooking milk in a fleishik pot. Now we're going to be learning about kosher and non-kosher. But the principles are going to be very similar. The principles, again, are Taam K'Ikar, but there's going to be certain things that we're going to be discussing, for example, which we touched upon, but we're going to be discussing them now. For example, the application of chanan. So we already learned, we already learned that when it comes to food items that are absorbed within a pot, the flavor in a pot, there could be chanan. There's machlekes about it, which is why we're lenient in the case of doubt. Or actually, there's where we apply double leniency, right? Because it's a stringency to begin with to treat absorption as chanan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we learn that as well over here. So, for example, if you have, so we get some details about if you had, say, a pot that was used in the last 24 hours,
for not kosher,
then generally speaking, because we don't know how much is absorbed and how much is exfoliated, you have to nullify the entire pot or the entire spoon. If, however, you know that it only absorbed one kazayas on one olive amount of non-kosher, then you need to nullify that amount because we don't do kalim or not chanan, right? But what happens if there's food absorbed in there? And do they become chanan or not? Because that's something we discussed also. And is the original
the difference between the machaber and
correct? That's going to come up again in a different context here as well. But some other details regarding that are going to come up as well. These same principles. For example, something specific I want to make mention of. Doubt about that. Caveat with that.
So even that, the idea of chanan, that's also a difference between if it's basa b'chalav, that's midoraisa.
Yes, another example.
Here it's
going to be derabanan. Even if you say chanan here, it's going to be derabanan. Correct. Yeah. Okay. So with that, okay. Oh, this is what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. We spoke about that. Now, there was something I missed over there I wanted to mention, which is, because it's a question of Taam K'Ikar, if a non-kosher piece of meat falls into your mixture, so of course you have to remove the non-kosher meat. because you have to get rid of the ikar. It's only a question of Taam K'Ikar. But how much do you have to nullify?
So,
Piece of meat's gone.
yeah, but the flavor of sesame.
Why? Again, for the same principle, because we don't know how
We
much.
know how much it would be.
We don't know how much is absorption.
It's
Exactly.
not going to be more than the piece of meat.
Very good. Big deal. It's the same thing. It's a principle of the absorption in the spoons. You have to go to the max of what it can absolutely possibly be. Although it's not really that much.
Okay.
So you have to nullify the entire size of the piece of meat you
Yeah.
extracted,
Like
even
we-
though
like
the
we saw
flavor is much
before.
lower because you don't know how much the flavor is. Very good. So that's the same principle of that. Okay, we're also going to talk about if you dip twice,
Oh, is it gonna be double or not?
gives you a double. What
Oh,
do you think?
Double or
Double?
nothing.
What?
No.
You have to go. You have to go double.
You have to,
That's
you
a
have
quote,
120,
I made a
you need
mistake.
60
I thought
times
it
or
was-
100, we
I
had
thought it was
120 times.
What do you think? How would this be different than the spoon?
Start with the kale,
Yeah, when you dip the spoon twice,
because then it's.
you had a milk spoon dipped into a fleischer pot.
no, that was 120 because there's two different
Oh,
things.
when it came to this spoon, it's two different materials.
First
The
it was
one
milk
and
with
meat, and
then
now
it was
it's
trade.
now it's chanan and meat.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
But here, when it's non-kosher meat going in twice,
Percent it's the same.
so even the Ramal will say only 1 times 60. That's going to come up as well. Very good.
But what about if the spoon is not kosher, then we can say, that's it.
It's all the same Isser twice.
Okay, same, okay.
Wait.
Only by Basa B'Cholav did a new Isser the second time.
No.
Because second time it became chanan.
Yeah, so if you use a kosher piece of meat, you dunked it in once, then you
And-
dunked it in a second
No,
time.
you're saying a kosher piece of meat that was dunked into non-kosher and then put into kosher. That is inherently the chanan that the Ramal says is chanan.
No.
That's
I'm
hanan.
talking
I'm sorry,
about a kosher piece of meat dunked directly in kosher milk. When
Twice,
the first dip,
same thing.
make it hanan, and
Oh,
the second
no.
dip, then it would be chanan. Wouldn't
When
it be similar to like the ladle?
Presumably we said similar to the ladle.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to think.
Yeah. First, if they nullify the piece of meat twice.
Twice.
First for milk nullifying meat, and then
Meat.
second time for milk
Chanan.
nullifying chanan of milk plus
Exactly.
color. Probably correct.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be the case over here because it's the same Isser going twice. When the Isser comes and it goes second.
Right, because you're talking about a tray piece of meat, which is why it's more lenient if you have a tray piece of meat, which is a kosher.
Correct. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Any chanan area is going to be more
Shockingly.
lenient. Well,
I know. I'm
I guess
saying
so.
when you go into the concept,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Okay.
When you put the kosher spoon.
Yeah, sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Wait, what are you saying? Yeah.
put that
that
on my.
go against the idea that is a problem.
Combined to become an available.
Like, yeah, like is milk and meat in an avela,
In an avela? How do you mean?
like milk
Explain-
and meat, like the avela.
Explain the scenario. Tell me the
You
scenario.
put a non-kosher piece of meat, milk.
Well, halacha that's not considered basa b'chala, right?
Thought that we were going back and forth on it.
It's biblically not basa b'chala.
Oh, because it's not cooking.
Well, it's just not kosher. Oh, we said that even if it's kosher, but it's
Yeah,
not
we
shut
said
it properly,
we
it
go
is
back.
considered, right?
That's what my question.
Well, it'd be chanan as well. Yeah, it's possible. It'd be chanan. Right? What did we say that? I don't remember.
So is the
We did that. If it's an avela,
Repeat the question, man.
yeah, because
Didn't
kosher,
matter.
'cause it's a kosher animal.
Didn't matter.
Then-
It was a
Question.
kosher animal. Yes, it's a kosher animal. Yeah,
Kosher animal, kosher
Kosher
milk.
animal.
even if it wasn't correct. Yeah, yes. That would be chanan. Yeah.
So you put a like non-kosher piece of meat, but it's kosher animal,
In kosher milk.
kosher milk,
Yeah.
and then you take it out and you put it back. Is there extra problem?
Yeah, because it's considered a kosher meat, because we said
For sure, yeah. The first one to nullify the meat, and the second
Yeah.
one to nullify the milk and meat.
It's not just
B'chol, yeah.
we said a
Yes.
non-kosher a kosher animal that wasn't shafted properly. That's like it's not the same level as non-kosher as like a non-kosher animal.
Okay, so there can be other technical things about, sorry.
It's a higher-
Nevela is not a non-kosher animal.
No, I know it's mixture. So,
The is a kosher animal
yeah,
that wasn't shafted properly.
exactly.
So there's gonna be other details that come up at the end, like for example, about chatzi share, if you have when your chatzi diet, you still have to nullify. Here's an interesting mental exercise, but again, it's if you understand the principle of Taam K'Ikar, it should become self-understood. So let's just imagine you have a pot with 60 ounces. We use ounces. He uses because they said we'll use ounces. 60 ounces of kosher food. and there's 1 ounce of blood that falls in there, not kosher, and 1 ounce of non-kosher fat falls into this big.
There are two things shown
You
there?
have 60 ounces of kosher soup.
Yeah.
1 ounce of blood falls in there, and 1 ounce of non-kosher fat falls in there.
One after the other.
One after the other.
It's fine,
Why? Explain.
because the first one was nullified in 60,
Yeah.
and the second one was nullified in
Because
60.
they fell at the same time.
61. Oh, the same one. You mix the blood with the
Yeah.
not kosher and you
Yeah.
poured it in.
Yeah.
So now.
No, that's
two
fine.
times in 60,
Why?
It's not going to be good.
Why?
No, it's gonna be
You do
fine.
2 times in 60.
Sorry?
It's gonna be fine because those two things, there's no isser if the two things mix.
Because what are we trying to do?
Maybe it depends too.
What are we trying to do?
Nullify the taste.
Well, make it that Shulchan Aruch makes it better. You have 59 ounces of kosher.
But that's a whole different
It's a
thing.
60,
That's
that's
a whole-
59 ounces of kosher. Even further.
So
And an ounce of
for
milk
60, I
and an
said
ounce
good.
of fat.
For 60, I said good. First of all.
Well, we'll
before
see
we
even
leave
further.
59,
No,
Okay.
the 50 has to be seen halacha. But let's think through it.
59.
59 ounces of kosher.
And we.
An ounce of blood and an ounce of fat. Both non-kosher. Mix in there. Good or no good?
No,
Why?
because it wasn't bittul b'shishim.
No, it should be good actually.
No.
You should have 60 because you're gonna have 60 total
No,
against the
we
first
had
blood.
59.
No, because
Yeah,
that one
let's-
drop makes the 60. That one drop makes the 60.
Well, but when you put in the blood, it was already a problem. No.
Let's do it like this.
No, but it nullifies
If you
the
put
first
blood
one.
in, the whole thing become tanan.
No.
Only according to the Chum Ramah. It's not as if you need to nullify all that.
I see.
You know.
So now, what do I have to nullify? In other words, what am I trying to nullify?
So 1 second. So
I'm
you
not trying to remember.
when you
Yeah,
well, 1 second.
yeah.
So you said when you put in the 1 ounce of blood in the 59 ounces of
Right now, it's not kosher.
kosher soup,
Not kosher.
it's not kosher. Now you want to say you have 60, and you're going to put in the other one. It's going to come back to being kosher.
Correct.
So it was not kosher, but by virtue of putting in not kosher,
Yeah,
it became kosher.
yeah. Why?
So you have 60 now.
I'm
Why?
wondering.
Think. Why?
You have 60 now. You have 60 times.
Because what are we trying to achieve in Shishim?
Nullify taste.
Nullify flavor.
Yeah.
Because
You have 60 to the ratio of that flavor is gone.
Because
Yeah.
the Rabban. Because
It's
the
a-
Rabban.
It's the Rabbanon. But the main thing, well, actually, no, it's not the Rabbanon here. It's Taam K'Ikar.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
inside the
the
Rabbanon.
actual taste.
Not even the Rabbanon necessarily.
I understand, but
It's b'shein amino.
It would be enough. It would be enough only till Barai.
No, it's not. It's be'ein amino. It's deraisa.
Oh, it's enemy.
Yeah, let's be be'ein amino. It's deraisa. But nonetheless, the flavor has been nullified. We don't need to nullify it. You need to nullify its flavor
So how did you nullify the flavor?
because you have
of blood?
60 times the ratio of another flavor. Anytime you have 60 to the ratio against the flavor, that flavor is gone.
Right.
So each of the two flavors, both the blood and the fat, have 60 to the ratio against it. It so happens to be that in this
No,
part of
the
60,
first one had 59 against.
when now there's an ounce of blood, it has 59, it has 60 against it.
So
They each have 60 against it. It just happens to be in the other 60 that's against it, there happens to be an ounce of non-kosher in there.
At first event of adding the blood, it's not kosher. Now you
Yeah.
added the not kosher and it became kosher.
Correct.
Yep.
Pretty wild. Because you nullified all the flavor that was non-kosher. If you knew about it in between, that was an interesting thing, but it happened consecutively.
with water.
The way the Shulchan Aruch puts it,
Why
the way the Shulchan Aruch puts it is that they both fell in.
why
Doesn't say which one, what the order is.
Wavy.
1 second. It's a good point he's making here. 1 second.
I'm not able to chew it.
Yeah, because the point is you cannot taste the meat, the blood, and you cannot taste the fat, and we nullify their flavors. Why can't you taste Why can't you taste the flavor of the blood? Because there's 60 non-blood flavor.
59.
No, 60 because you have the kosher, non-kosher fat in that too. There's 60 to the ratio of the blood.
I thought the blood was first. Again, which is first, the blood or the
It's irrelevant.
fat?
It's not relevant because in the end you have a mixture in which 60 to the ratio of any non-kosher flavor.
But you earlier had 59 against. it.
And 2
Fine.
ounces of
And then
non-kosher.
that became already not kosher.
Okay, it became non-kosher by dint of what?
By dint of the fact that there wasn't 60 to nullify
By
the one.
dint of the fact that there's detectable flavor of blood. And now that I added another ounce of something else, there's no longer detectable blood because it's 60 times. Remember, the 60 is not a magical number. The 60 is nullify flavor. Like you're making the flavor indistinguishable and undiscernible. So long as the flavor is undiscernible, it's not doesn't pose a problem. How it became undiscernible is not relevant.
By that logic, can I add water to a mixture? So
Okay, so you can't do something post factum. You can't nullify prohibitions intentionally.
that means those
Oh,
two.
So in this case here, that's what I'm saying. To this point, if I knew about it in between, it might be a problem. If I knew, but not because of the lack of flavor, but because you cannot voluntarily go nullify a flavor. But in the case here, it's presented in front of me, and there's 59 kosher, 59 ounces kosher, 1 ounce fat non-kosher, 1 ounce blood non-kosher. The whole mixture is kosher.
Right.
Because each of the non-kosher ounces have 60 ounces of other flavor to nullify its flavor output.
I understand. And they both.
Let's try again. There's 50 ounces of soup, okay? And I add 10 ounces,
Yeah.
right? So for sure it was not nullified.
Yeah.
And now I add 1 ounce of not kosher fat.
Now I add one. I still don't have 60 times
It's the
more.
same reason.
No.
I don't have 60 times more than blood.
The non-kosher fat is nullified and
Oh,
the
you
blood
have
is not.
60 times the
I don't have 60
amount
times
of blood.
10 ounces of blood.
You want to
I
say,
thought you were going to ask, and then you put 10 ounces of fat. That's a good question. But the answer would still be there, presumably. But it's fine.
and if for 10 ounces of fat, you'd say it would be good.
It's a good question. Because at what point do we say that the flavor is still discernible?
If we say the flavor is
Good
discernible,
question.
at 59, the flavor is already discernible. And what's the difference if it's 50 or 59?
We said 60
Well, because
is
let's just say let's make the stakes even higher. You have 30 ounces of kosher, and then 20 ounces of blood and 20 ounces of fat.
No.
Why not? Why? No, sorry, it's 50.
Never
That would be
had
50.
60
Sorry.
anything over
We
there.
did 40,
numbers didn't work
40,
out.
40, 40. 40 ounces of kosher,
Okay,
20 ounces, 20 ounces.
okay, that's what I said, the same thing. It's
Yeah.
10 I said 10 and 1, but 10 and 10 or
Good
20
question.
and 20.
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we'll get to that when we get to our halacha l'maaseh.
But
Good question.
if you say that that's a doubt, then the 1 and 1 is also a doubt. It's the same thing. There's no difference.
no. This makes no sense. This example 40, 20, 20.
Why not? It's a 60 against
It's
each
the
one.
same
60 against 20.
At
It's not nullified.
59, 1 and 1 is the same thing
Yeah,
as 40,
even
20 and 20.
let's see.
Well, 60 versus 20 doesn't nullify. 60 versus 1 nullifies. You added too much treif in there.
No.
No, but by this
40
logic,
plus 20.
you don't have.
Against, okay, I see. 40 plus 20 plus 20 doesn't nullify 20.
Doesn't
Why not?
nullify
Right,
20.
right, right.
It's-
40, oh, you're right.
You're
40
right.
plus 20
No.
doesn't become
Right,
6
right.
times 20.
No.
Ah, you're right. We're bad at math. You're right. It
Okay.
only works
With
with
what?
only works with 59 to 1-1.
Yes.
Right.
Anything more than that.
No. But his logic also made sense.
No,
you have
you're right.
50, you have 50 kosher, 60 blood, and 1 ounce of fat. That 1 ounce of fat is nullified. The 10 blood is not.
Correct. That's not kosher.
So it's not kosher. But
You're
that
right.
1 ounce of fat is not what made it not kosher.
It's
It was 10 ounces of blood.
Oh, you're right. This is right. It's right. 40 plus 10. You don't have 60 to the ratio either. It only works with 59 1-on-1.
It's only because you're adding the 1 to the 59.
That becomes
that's
60 against
nullifying-
that one.
That's nullifying.
That's the ratio you
the
need.
blood.
You can
It's the
increase the
only
number as
ratio
much
it
as
works.
increase the number as much as
59
you
plus
Right.
want.
You can make it 59 gallons to
Exactly.
a gallon.
Yeah, you can make it
but has to-
thousands, whatever.
What's that?
The ratio has to stay the same.
It has to be 1-1, yes.
It's the 59
Are we following?
plus 1 blood
Yeah.
is
Right.
nullifying one
Sorry.
non-kosher fat.
It-
Or 59 plus 1 non-kosher fat. is
Nullifying one blood.
One blood.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the only way it works.
And that's why it works.
Yes, very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. That was very good.
You guys
Okay.
were- I was like,
But he can do a similar thing where you have, interesting enough, which is, we have to see how the Ramah plays this out, because if you get these a case like this, where you have 29 ounces of kosher, right? And then you have 1 ounce of non-kosher fall in there. And then another pot has 30 ounces of kosher. And in that 30 ounces of kosher, 1 ounce of blood falls in. Right? So both of them right now are non-kosher because it's 1 to 30 and 1 to 29. And then the 2 pots mix,
Right.
all kosher.
Now it's 61.
Now it's
altogether.
60.
61.
You have 61 ounces total,
61 total.
but 60 against each of the ounces.
Right.
But in this case,
60 against each
this
one.
came after.
What came after?
You had, to your point, you can make it goes from non-kosher to kosher. You had pot with 29 ounces
Okay, both of them were,
and 1 ounce non-kosher blood.
right,
30 kosher, 1 ounce non-kosher fat.
Right.
So right now, these two pots are non-kosher.
Right.
You mix them together to become kosher.
hey.
All by accident. If you do it on purpose, you can't do it because you can't. Ein levatin is lechatchila. But in timeline, these were non-kosher and became kosher. Yeah. And the same thing would apply to milk and meat in two different pots as well. Okay. So I think that pretty much covers the ideas of this Siman. And today's Tuesday, so tomorrow night we're doing our first Chazar Lamaisa. Yeah, I want to I'm sorry, I couldn't keep the schedule this week. We're out of town. This next week I'm out of town as well. But Bez Hashem, on Sunday I'm going to keep to the 10 o'clock on Zoom only. I'll be 10 o'clock on Zoom, God willing. 10:30, I'm sorry, on Zoom.
Who's your daughter's grandfather? Your sister, your wife's grandfather?
My wife's grandfather is we talking about.
His
One
grandfather.
passed away.
His grandfather.
My grandfather passed away.
His father's.
My parents are on the way to Australia.
Oh,
I actually want to dedicate the class of memory. Thanks for reminding me to dedicate Nachum Mendel and Yisrael.
They're not there yet.
remember you.
They're all the way. They're en route. They're en route. Sorry.
Your grandfather buried?
Yeah, I used to come visit her all the time. Yeah, so he's 97 Kananahara.
Wow.
Yeah,
How many years ago?
2 years ago,
Oh, your
your
grandmother,
your
3 years
grandmother
ago?
passed away, right?
3
Yeah.
years ago she passed away. Yeah.
Remember,
Oh, yeah,
the
3
whole,
years
the
ago,
whole
right.
dedication
I
here is
was,
very
I was in Australia, right? You actually were, I remember.
Yeah. So Be'ezer Hashem. Okay, so tomorrow night we can do Chazal Maisa. If we don't finish tomorrow night, we'll do Thursday night. That's our regular scheduled programming. Hopefully we will finish it. It's 9 Sifim. But it's, as you heard, it's like many of the Siman we've done till now, the primary principles. Yeah. Again, I keep on saying this off the record. Finish your test over Pesach break. Because I'm to hate. And I also suggest to do that. I also suggest that some guys already submitted their tests, and I would suggest
Ellie
to do one. Don't do the whole thing at once. Do one section at a time.
My text.
I'll give
You
you
have an extra one?
Taruvus.
No, what's in the follow?
I should have one. Should have another one. And then, okay, so tomorrow night, Chazar Lamaisa, hopefully we finish. If not, continue Thursday. And Sunday morning we'll be on Zoom. And Wednesday night, Bez Hashem, I hope to be back already. The wedding's Tuesday night. My brother-in-law's getting married. Baruch Hashem. Thank you. And
Where's the wedding?
wedding's in New York. It's just children and a drive. So I probably shouldn't promise to do the share next Wednesday night. Maybe Shilachat just need to do it Thursday night. But Sunday morning, definitely I'll be 10:30 on the Zoom. And tomorrow night, Chazar Lamaisa
Wait,
on
what's
Tzedakah. Sorry?
and Sunday we're still good.
Sunday 10:30 on Zoom.
Sunday I'm doing.
Sunday 10:30 on Zoom.
We should do double share on Sunday because Sunday's easier day. I would personally
don't
rather do
know.
a double share.
I don't know if I can push it by myself.
I'm
Preparation.
just saying. Because or we do.
It's gonna be to the test. Yeah. The test in Kuf, I think, even whatever Siman tomorrow next week. Okay, wonderful evening, everybody.
I was thinking you do like the outside and the inside or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I was just saying because Sunday's an easier day.
Depends
And
for
you
who.
don't have to
Depends for who.
answer who, but
Sunday, Wednesday, throughout the most of the year has been working quite well. Keep that. The Thursday also to catch up Chazar Lamaisa, we'll do it.
I'm just talking about this week, not Stam. I was talking about
It
this
also
week.
depends what my family's doing.
Yeah.
Okay, my in-laws rented a house upstate New York for the whole family to do a Shabbaton together.
Ah.
So I don't know what to plan it. At 10:30, I told my wife at 10:30 I'm giving a share.
That's what you're saying.
I don't want to.
Right. You're not in town, right?
That's right. That's what I'm doing on Zoom. If I wait till I come back, that means I have Thursday and Friday to do.
No.
Sure, it's like this. So I'm going to do the Zoom on Sunday morning. That I'm not missing. And then we'll do the show when we get back.
Okay.
Yeah,
that
good
makes
evening,
sense.
everybody.